Hi guys, it's Andy from Nismo Tech UK. Today we're giving an unboxing and overview for Cougar. This is their MX500 mid-tower case. Okay, so let's start with the box itself. We've got the Cougar branding right up at the top here. Here would normally be your image of the MX500, but unfortunately the shipping company decided to stick a massive sticker all over the front of this. So I do apologise that you can't really sort of see that, but essentially we're going to be looking at the case anyway. Down at the bottom here we've got a lot of key specifications about the case, a couple of key points on there, but we'll come on to that in a bit more detail when we get inside the box itself. Moving on to that side, again, obviously we have got a little bit more information down at the bottom here, so I'm just going to lift that up. Supports the micro ATX or ATX motherboard. We have got 3 5¼ inch bays, 7 3¼ inch bays, and a converted drive area for SSDs as well. USB 3.0 comes with a couple of fans which we'll look at, and essentially that's it with regards to that, but again we'll cover that in a bit more detail in a moment. Moving on to the back of the box, it's where it's got its key features. One that's particularly of interest is the longer high-end graphics cards, up to 300mm, 330 or 410mm, depending on where you put your hard drive bracket inside the actual case. A lot of options with regards to its fans that we'll cover off in a moment. You've got a front 120mm fan and also a rear 120mm fan included in the actual case. Advanced USB 3.0 ports on the front, PCI 7 PCI slots, obviously for multiple graphics cards, etc. Screwless mechanisms on the 5¼ inch bays, and also some air filters or dust filters on the bottom and side cover. Just switch this around to that side, and again just basically a little bit more information about the MX500 on there. So let's now get inside the box and see what we get. Okay, just before we get into a bit more detail about the MX500, just want to give you a sort of overall exterior look on the actual case. Got 3 5¼ inch bays at the top, a bit of shiny plastic trim here, a sort of mesh grille area here which has probably got some form of fan filtering, I would hope, along with the Cougar logo down at the bottom there, and obviously some screws that you can remove. And moving on to this side, you see that we haven't got a side window. What we got is a fan area here, probably 120, maybe even 140mm support on here. Moving on to the back, we have got a bottom mounted PSU, 7 vented PCI slots, and a pre-installed 120mm fan at the back. Handles for the side panels and thumb screws. This side's going to be a bit boring, and I'll say that's just your normal side panel. Moving on to the top of the case, I'll just hold that in a good enough position for you guys to see, hopefully. We've got this very large mesh area up at the top here with multiple different options with regards to hopefully water cooling, as well as obviously your fans, 120, 140mm fans. We've also got this sort of matte area. I say it's a matte area because it's got like a soft touch rubber finish with the Cougar logo embossed on the actual pad itself, but essentially you could put your mobile phone up at the top here, for example. And also you've got your front I/O, which we'll come on to in a bit more detail in a moment. And then just moving on to the bottom, to show you that there, we have got this magnetic fan filter, obviously room for a fan down at the bottom, and some hard pretty hard rubber feet down at the bottom. So let's now give you a bit more detail about the actual case itself. So let's start with this side here, and just remove the thumb screws and the side panel. Now this fan grilled area here, which I assume is going to have a fan grill on there, can take a 120 or a 140mm fan, depending on what you want to actually install on there. Quite strong good build quality on the side panel, as you would expect with a case. I'm just going to remove the box. We'll take a look at that in a moment, and also that there which was holding the box in place. Okay, so as you can see, we have got a all black interior, which is really nice to see by the looks of it. All the cables on the inside here are black, so we'll come on to them in a moment. You can see that we have a multiple array of hard drive cages on the side here. Obviously a couple of them have become a little bit dislodged, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hard drive cages. Just pull one of these out and you can see that we have actually got some screw holes there which will enable you to fit a 2.5-inch drive into those spaces as well. So it's really good. Great deal of support with regards to your hard drives, etc. We've also got screwless operation on the top here for the 5.25-inch bays, which look to be quite a simple operation. We'll probably take a bit of a closer look at that in a moment. And also on the inside here, we do look to have a what looks to be like a floppy drive cradle in there as well. So we'll take a little bit of a closer look at that in a moment. So let's just tip this back a little bit so you can get a better look. We've got a very nice large cutout for your CPU cooler to be changed. Everything's obviously indicated with regards to whether it's the ATX or the micro ATX motherboard. We've got one standoff pre-installed for some bizarre reason. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 holes for cable management to go through to the back. They aren't grommeted, which would have been quite nice to see. The fans that come from the front and the back are a 3-pin fan connector with black cables and black connectors, which is really nice. Down at the bottom for your PSU, in fact let's just bring you in a bit closer so we can have a better look at this. Down at the bottom here for your PSU area, you can see that we've got these, they are metal unfortunately, metal ridges for the actual PSU to sit on top of. And so you've got room here for probably a 120 or a 140mm fan, depending on your PSU length, if you did want to install one down there as well. So you've got a ridge here to also protect the actual PSU to keep it in place. Okay, so let's just have a look at the actual cables that are included in this bundle. They're going to be pretty much standard as you would come to expect from a case, but like I said, they are all black, which is really nice to see, and we've got thick black cables even for your I/O headers with regards to your power, your LED, your hard drive activity, etc. So that's all with one big cable, which is quite nice. I quite like that implementation. We've also got your standard USB, you've got your HD audio, as well as your 3.0 connector, USB 3.0 connector for the internal header. So it's those cables plus the actual 2 fan cables. Okay, so let's now go and look how they are implementing the hard drive situation with regards to longer graphics card, etc. So the trays that I briefly showed you a moment ago are obviously, you know, a solid bit of plastic. There's quite a lot of flexibility to install your 3.5-inch drives. You just basically bend them out and push them in like so. Let me just quickly show you a moment. So you have the hard drive facing the correct way. Get these lined up. They are quite a tight fit, but essentially that's how you actually put the hard drive in there. Now when sliding them into place, slide one in, I don't know if you can quite hear that, but that's quite a positive click to actually keep it securely in place, which is really good to see. Now at the moment we have got a total length of 300mm with regards to your graphics card. If you do have a longer graphics card, you've got 2 screws at the top here, which I've removed one of them already. And essentially all that you do is just pull that panel off like so. And if I can just quickly show you, hopefully I can, up at the top here we've got 2 sets of grooves essentially that the bracket itself slots into. So the next option, which will allow for a 330mm graphics card, you've got to put it in at a slight angle if I remember rightly. Let me just put that back in. slot that back into place like so, and then if I can just move my bits and pieces a moment, you then screw your 2 screws into this, what I thought was a floppy drive bay at the front here. So you just basically screw it into place and job done. Now essentially all you need to do is then remove that, and you then have room for a 410mm graphics card along the front. So the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, the bottom 4 drives stay in place all the time. You are able to then obviously adjust the middle section depending on your graphics card needs. Now when you're in the middle position, you have only got room for 2.5-inch SSDs. So for those of you that obviously use 1 or 2 or maybe 3 SSDs in like a RAID 0 or RAID 1 or anything like that nature, you may just want to move that across anyway, just so that you can actually use these SSD trays which have been included. We've got a total of 3 of them, because you've got 3 slots here, which is really nice to see the fact that they've included them, so that essentially you don't have to screw them in from the side or anything like that nature. And again, it's literally just expand it, put the drive in and stick that back in, and then obviously you can go ahead, and again you've got a positive click when actually installing them into the actual hard drive area. Really, really good implementation with regards to the hard drive and graphics card options. Really like that. Let's just go and have a look at the front part here. Now, in addition to having your SSD compartments here, and obviously for the longer options on the 2 graphics cards that you have, you can also install a 3.5-inch drive into this section here, and it's a bit more of a conventional way of doing things. But essentially what you do is just basically put the drive in, you screw it in from either side, and then obviously you've got the option to actually have a 3.5-inch drive up at the top there as well. Okay, so now onto the front panel. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that there, and essentially give this a tug, and it comes out. Now, one thing that I noticed, and maybe given a bit more thought about it at the beginning, you see these sort of metal type clips on the front here. They're to replace the awkward, difficult, sometimes plastic ones that you have to squeeze together. Now, I thought that you had to unscrew all 6 of these in order to get the front panel off, when essentially, as you just saw, all you need to do is give it a quick tug. But I've never seen anything like that before, and it does actually make it a hell of a lot easier to actually get the front panel off the case. So moving on to the front panel, as you can see, the thumb screws don't really do anything at all. They're there for decoration and look quite good, to be fair. Very, very good construction and build quality on this, by the way. Your front mesh area for the fan filter is removed by bending these bits of mesh around, pushing it through, and you're then able to get to the actual front fan filter, and obviously give that a wipe down and a clean. Not the easiest of ways to get to it, bit time consuming, but at least you are able to get to it. Very, very thick foam on there. It's probably around about 3 to 4 mil thick actually, just from sort of pressing that in. So really good in that respect. So moving on to the front, you see that we've got a pre-installed 120mm fan here. You are able to install 2 of them, or you can take them both out and install 2 140mm fans onto the front as well. Got quite a nice area here to actually feed your cable through for both fans as well, so it's good to see you don't have to faff around trying to find a hole for the cables to go through. But essentially that's the actual front. Very easy to get the front cover off. The fan filters are not so easy, but also good cooling options with regards to the 120 and the 140mm options. So now on to the top of the actual case. Now you can see this sort of pad area that I was referring to when we had a quick look around the exterior. This Cougar logo is embossed. It's a nice soft rubber sort of finish to the top. and it's really good. You can stick your mobile phone up at the top and it's not really going to move around too much. So it's quite a nice little bit of accessory up at the top there. Also included, you've got two USB 3.0, two USB 2.0, your audio headset and mic connector. Quite a small button for your reset there, and by the looks of it there's a little LED on the inside there that will give you your hard drive indication as to what it's actually doing. Got a nice power button on the top there which looks to illuminate as well. Now moving along to the options along the top. Now unfortunately I haven't got the tallest of tripods, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to potentially show you guys. So let's now cover the fan options that you have in the roof of the actual case. Now you see that we've got these sort of push pin button type connectors at the top here. That essentially keeps the fan filter in place. We've got room for two 120 or 140mm fans, or you can remove both of them and install a 180mm fan or a 200mm fan in the roof of your case. So you've got a couple of different options there for you. And essentially all that you need to do, if I just try and get one of these out a moment. There we go, I finally managed to get one of them out. As you can see, they're literally push button type things in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly go and remove them all for you so that you guys can have a good look at them. Okay, so after a couple of minutes I managed to remove this sort of fan filter type material. It's basically just a bit of mesh that's up at the top here. Some of you probably won't even want to use that and just have that open, but I would probably recommend a density filter or something going along the actual top of the actual case, because even though that's going to provide some protection, it's not really as good as a proper fan filter. But essentially that's now removed, and obviously when you're sticking it back into place, once you've got your fans in there, you know, you just basically go along and fill in the holes. Okay, so this is the inside view of the actual roof. You can see obviously you've got the screw holes there to basically obviously go ahead and install your fans. Now in terms of water cooling support, there isn't any. Yes, you could probably install a radiator into the roof, but then you're going to have no room for your fans to be installed on here unless you were to install them from the top, which is obviously not a particularly good option. So it very much is an air-cooled case, but again, you know, there's quite a nice sort of gap. There's quite a weird design here. It's a bit difficult to actually show you. Let me just see if I can bring it up a bit there. But essentially this is sort of embossed out here rather than being flat. So it means that when you're actually installing the fans, they sort of should slot in there sort of quite nicely. If I was going to go and stick one in there as such, see that there is a bit of a ridge here when actually installing the fans. So it's quite a nice little design. Okay, so now moving on to the motherboard tray. Surprisingly, you've actually got 20mm of space behind the actual motherboard tray here, which is a fairly decent amount of room to route your cables in behind the actual motherboard. Really, really good. Very impressed with the amount of room that they've managed to create behind the actual motherboard tray. There isn't too many tie downs. In fact, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 tie downs on the back here, so it would have been nice to implement maybe another sort of 4 or 5 here. The hole up at the top here for the additional power onto the actual motherboard is a decent size. I can get my sort of finger through that particular hole, so that's not too bad. Again, it would have been nice to see these with a rubber grommet, but however they are rounded with regards to the metal, so even running your finger around you aren't going to sort of get any nasty surprises. With regards to the hard drive area at the back here, you have got probably around about 25 to 30mm with regards to room for cabling to come through for the hard drives. I would have thought that if you have got all hard drives, all 7 hard drives installed, you're going to struggle with regards to cable management around the back here. But essentially, if you've only got sort of 2, maybe 3 drives in here, this shouldn't be too much of a problem. So really like the implementation on the back and the amount of room that you actually have on the back there. And obviously that's the cable coming from the front fan, 3-pin black cable, always good to see. Okay, so now onto the bottom of the case. Obviously we've got these hard rubber tipped plastic, rubber feet on the bottom here. So obviously it's going to help with the vibration and scratching on the surface. We have got this removable magnetic fan filter, really good quality, very flexible, very easy to clean. And you can see that we've got the room for the 120 or 140mm fan down at the bottom if you do wish to install that. So we just stick that back on there like such. It actually sort of slots into place, which again is really good. But if I just turn this, saying that when I move it, if I just turn this up, hopefully you guys can have a look at the actual, I'll just bring that down a bit closer. You can see that we've actually got a hell of a lot of clearance from the bottom of the desk here to the actual bottom of the case. There's a lot of gap there. So if you were to install a fan into the bottom of the case, you've got a lot of air flow that potentially could run through underneath and obviously be sucked in to the case. So now we're going to have a look in the accessories box and see what we get inside. So I'll just pull everything out. You've got your 3 SSD sledges for the top part of the SSD cage, so that you can obviously install 2.5 inch drives into that area. Really good the fact that they include these separately, so they're not the type that you have to adjust or anything like that, because they can be a bit flimsy. Real plus point with this. Big thumbs up to Cougar for doing that. This is your grill that essentially goes over the side panel, so it's got the Cougar branding on there. We have got a bit of mesh on here as well. There's no screws that attach that, it literally just pops onto place onto your side panel and away you go. So obviously you need to stick that on to the side panel. And then inside here, just get everything out that's actually included here. One thing that you may have noticed on the back of the actual case, where the water cooling grommets go, they are basically little bits of metal at the moment, so you can pop them out and stick these rubber grommets in if you wish. Personally, I think I probably would, because it looks better than just having bits of metal. So see, they're there for you. You've then got obviously all your screws, your motherboard mounts, fan screws, etc. that you need, and then the instruction guide itself is actually quite a good instruction guide. Quite simple and easy to understand. It highlights all the screws and everything and what they're actually for, and the various different sections. And then on the back it gives a very detailed instruction as to how to put the actual hard drives in various different modes, and what you actually install in terms of hard drives into those particular areas. So it's actually a really good instruction manual. Now to my personal thoughts about the MX500 by Cougar. When I got told about the sample, I was expecting the pretty bulk standard case to come through, and to be honest, they've actually surprised me with how good the actual case is, especially for the fact that it comes in, I think it's around about $69 to $70, which is probably around about £40 to £45 here in the UK. So it's quite a cheap case. But what this case does, it actually packs quite a lot of features in. Just looking at the outside of the case, I would have preferred a side window to a fan grille area. I'm a big fan of side windows, and I personally think with this case having a completely black interior, as well as the option to install such a long graphics card, that a side window would be a really good option on the case. The front doesn't look too bad with the thumb screws along the front. The grille area is pretty difficult to actually remove. So that would have been nicer if that was a little bit better and easier to get at to clean. The inclusion of the two 120mm fans is obviously, you know, pretty standard for a case of this size. However, one thing that I will say is these fans are extremely quiet and produce a very good airflow. And I also like the fact that they are sort of like a black fan as well. So you have a couple of different options on the front with the front intakes as well as the roof. There's, I think it's 4 different sizes of fans that you can actually install into the roof, and that makes it very good with regards to its airflow. The only thing that is lacking is water cooler support. However, so you are able to fit an all-in-one on the back of the case, but when it comes to the roof area, there is literally going to be no room for you at all. But to be fair, that is something that we would expect from a case of this size and this price bracket. Now, where this case does excel is the hard drive management. I love the fact that they've included 2.5-inch SSD drive sledges to be used when the hard drive area is moved over to the middle position. I think that's really good. You're not sort of limited to using the 3.5-inch bays, and you don't have to screw them in. I really like that implementation. And generally that whole area in a whole, the fact that you can install a 3.5-inch drive just above where the actual main hard drive area is, I think it's actually quite a nice touch. Another good point is the height that the case sits from the desk. It means that there is a lot of airflow to be taken from the bottom of the case. And if you're able to fit one, I would probably recommend installing a 120mm fan into the bottom of the case, just to bring in a lot of cold air through the actual system. Vented PCI slots are another good plus point, as well as the cabling. Obviously no expense spared by Cougar. They've gone with completely black cables, black connectors, and even the I/O cable, which is something that I've not really seen too often. It comes basically in one big long cable, which obviously then splits off towards the end, and that makes cable management so much easier, especially in a case of this size. Talking about the cable management, around the back behind the motherboard tray, you've got a massive amount of space for a case of this size to go and fit all your cables in there. The only thing that really lets it down is the lack of tie down options that you have, as well as obviously the rubber grommets for the holes on the motherboard tray. So overall, I think this is an excellent case. It's definitely one that you should potentially consider if you want a case of this size, especially when it comes to its overall price. So from us, it's a big thumbs up to Cougar for creating the MX500. It's a very, very nice case. So overall, just to summarise, we think the MX500 is a very, very good case, and exceedingly good value for money. But just a couple of recommendations to them is to add rubber grommets and also a side window. Completing these two things would definitely improve the overall look of the case. So we hope you like our unboxing and overview for the Cougar MX500. Please leave a comment down below. What do you think about this case? Obviously, Cougar are a relatively quite unknown brand here in the UK, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys think about this particular case, as well as any comments with regards to the way that we've done our review. Links for where you can purchase this case will be found down below in the description. I encourage you to go and have a look at them to check out the latest price on this particular case, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. We hoped you liked our video review. If you did, then please leave a like, as well as any comments or questions you may have down below. Full details and specifications on this item can be found at our website, nismotech.com, along with all the links for purchasing if you wish. Also on our site, you'll find our latest reviews and current giveaways, plus a lot more. We look forward to seeing you in our next review.